Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
Hello, very good evening and warm welcome to Newsline Prime. This evening our surroundings slightly different as we having a few technical difficulties, but nevertheless we'll give you a full show. We were going to talk about the current situation as well as something called the Nolan Principles, and our guest will be Mr. Vidura Wickremanayake, Member of Parliament, who is at the moment currently stuck in traffic. He'll be joining us as soon as possible. In the meantime, joining me in the studio is the Head of English News, Chaturanga Hapwarachi. Very good evening to you, Chaturanga.
Good evening to you, Faraz.
Thank you very much for taking time off from your hectic 9 o'clock news schedule here.
Thank you.
Now then, Chaturanga, we can see what's happening here since 21st of April. We have many telephone calls and many calls and emails and so on from members of the hospitality industry complaining that things are not quite right and that they are in rather a muddle. Is this reflective of what you're receiving too on the news floor?
Yes, Faraz. Now, we have to keep in mind that every time there has been a problem in our country, be it a political issue, be it otherwise, the politicians do not forget to use that opportunity to get other things done in this whole calamity that is created thereafter.
So they're making capital out of the turmoil.
Absolutely, absolutely. So from time to time we have seen that, and this time too we are also seeing that same situation where irrelevant of the number of people that have died, irrelevant of the impact it had on the economy, especially the tourism sector and other related sectors, politicians seem to be continuing their work, continuing what they want to achieve, even by stooping down to the low level of using what has happened in the past. We saw this in the past few weeks, Faraz. We saw what happened, we saw politicians talking about it. If that similar attention was drawn to the problems of the people, this country would have been in a totally different place altogether. But we don't see that happening. That's what's sad for us. And as you brought up the Nolan principle as well, from time to time in Parliament and in other places, we've seen the reactions and how these politicians behave, basically completely ignoring the problems of the people sometimes. You saw this in the October 26th political incident as well, where almost all the politicians got together as soon as their positions, their pension payment, their 5-year pension retirement plan was being affected, flocked together. But when it comes to issues like the Central Expressway, issues like this current situation where the tourism industry is in trouble because the moratoriums and the concessions announced by the people are not practically going down to the level where it should be going to. When issues like that come up, where are these politicians and where is that collective responsibility is the question that we have to continue to raise. Indeed.
And it's no good blaming the media, which is the favorite punching bag of our politicians, not just in this government, but for almost in time immemorial, but for several years and several decades actually. And of course, the Nolan Principles is 7 points which guide the practices of ministers in the UK government. And it was introduced in 1994 by then Prime Minister John Major, who had an absolute calamity on his hands in what is now known as the Cash for Questions affair, where he also felt that it wasn't right and they were worried about the unethical behaviour of some members of Parliament. And hence Lord Nolan was given the task, and he came up with what is now known in Britain as the Nolan Principles. And Chaturanga, we have 7 points. One is selflessness, the other is integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and of course leadership. Now, if we go one by one, in terms of selflessness, it says here that the holders of public office should act solely in terms of the public interest. I'd like to ask you, as a youthful member of the journalistic field, whether you think that your elected representatives are working solely in terms of the public interest.
It's funny that you asked this question for us just after what we discussed. Public interest seems to be in the bottommost in the priority list of all these.
At the bottom rung.
Bottom rung of
Even
the
it might not be on the rung.
Maybe, because we see this from time to time, especially since you mentioned the media issue as well, when the politicians are trying to pass laws, bills, etc. to control the media, not just the current government, not just once or twice by the same government. From time to time they've been trying it. Various methods, various mechanisms were used, but it comes to this very simple point for us. If someone is trying to control the media that is exposing what is going on in the country, it's absolutely clear why they want to control it is because there is some sort of thing that is being publicized by the media that is hurtful to them. So when this happens, again coming back to this particular point, are they working for the betterment of the public or in public interest, is absolutely clear. We don't have to answer that question, the general public will be able to.
And the second point of Lord Nolan's principles, the 7 principles, or better known as the Nolan principles, is integrity. Holders of public office must avoid placing themselves under any obligation to people that might try inappropriately to influence them in their work. They should not act or take decisions in order to gain financial or other material benefits for themselves, their family, or their friends. They must declare and resolve any interests and relationships. Well, you know, that is integrity, point 2 of that. Several of these matters that Lord Nolan speaks of have been completely done away with by some members of our government. Holders of public office, they should not act or take decisions in order to gain financial or other material benefit for themselves, their family, or their friends. They must avoid placing themselves under any obligation to people that might try inappropriately to influence them in their work. Now, Chaturanga, if you cast your mind back to the Bondgate matter, Sri Lanka's largest financial scam ever, those words are not mine, but mentioned by the Attorney General's Department at the Commission of Inquiry. If you have a look at that, the number of telephone calls between those held responsible and various dealers and so on, and people in key office and members of parliament as well, the number of telephone calls, it actually beggars belief. And they did so, and now they're squirming around almost like a serpent that has had kerosene put over it. They're squealing and squirming around, trying to get away from it. And so they are completely acting not selflessly, but they're acting for their own interests. Have you noticed that this is a norm? If you look at the attempt to procure a contractor for the Section 3 of the highway, if you remember, Lakshman Kiriyalla was holding meetings in his offices with the bidding contractors. Then they tried to have the contract awarded to a Japanese company that had its own bad track record, including big holes suddenly turning up on the roads of Japan, and that they were under investigations for a variety of things. So they have completely departed from due process, and all for what? Was it for their personal benefit? Is the question here. Why do they work away from proper procedure?
Absolutely, Faraz. Now we also have to keep in mind, out of what you just mentioned, this is an election year. The Central Expressway, as we reported on our primetime news on Sirasa TV, our sister channel, the fact that they are trying to expedite the process of constructing and concluding the construction activities of phase 2 of the Central Expressway is in itself a problem, because if you look at how this has been constructed for us, you just don't have phase 1, you have phase 2. and then you don't have phase 3. Because now the Japanese company is threatening that if you don't give us the construction contract for the interchange of phase 2,
Yes.
they will withdraw from the whole project altogether. So we have a situation where we have a road, but there is no interchange, so that cannot be taken any use of.
Yes.
And because the election is coming up, maybe because the election is coming up, the government is trying to push this through, and they are trying to make this interchange as well. So the condition that has been set forth by the Japanese companies, if you don't give us interchange, we are not giving you the project as well for the third phase. So again a dilemma, again a situation where the inefficiencies and the unplanned nature of this government's policies has come to play, and the people, the general public, you and I, are again burdened, because we remember the exorbitant rates that the third phase of the expressway was
right. The insurance
taken.
premium was 10.04%.
10.04%.
And in terms of money, it was 104 million United States dollars. That's an awful lot of money.
And we also have to remember that we do not have a highway minister. We do not know whether we have a highway minister at the moment. There was a resignation. There are views being expressed that the resignation has not gone through properly. So a lot of things are happening in the country, and again the question remains, as you said, where is the public interest aspect in all of this?
Yeah.
Are the politicians acting for their own benefit? I think anyone will be able to answer and say yes, because that seems to be the track record of the current government. Everything that they have been doing, yes, the initial decision is policy driven. However, various people come in, and basically it ends up being a corruption scandal altogether. The whole
Indeed.
thing becomes a mess. So that we have seen from past to past. You mentioned the bond scam. We saw how the Volkswagen, the Horana tire factory, the tallest building in South Asia, the Google Loon project, Total Pay. We remember, we can list hundreds and hundreds of projects that the tabs, especially the tab computers for school children.
There are moves in the West to ensure that children don't have these phones with them.
France, I believe.
In France. And here in Sri Lanka, we're going completely the other way around.
And Faraz, again, I want to bring us back to this particular point where the tourism sector is concerned. We have to remember, Faraz, that just before the April 21st incident happened, tourism in our country was at a okay level. People were happy about the current situation, but we had a lot to develop. We are not saying we were great, but we were there, somewhere there.
Yes.
And then this incident happened, yes, but what happened afterwards, it was more disappointing, because the government and the people who have been paid by the government to carry out the job of attracting the foreigners into the country are going on at various places, holding press conference, carrying out press conferences and speaking before the media. That seems to be limited to only that. Whereas if this was a different situation, what we could do is talk to these. We just heard that the travel ban from UK has been relaxed. But with all of these things going on, the Sri Lankan officials are responsible of talking to these countries, ensuring that the safety level is okay. They are not going to do that assessment by themselves. These countries are taking care of their own people, unlike the Sri Lankan government.
Yes.
So when it comes to that situation, the officials who are appointed, the ministers themselves, the secretaries to the ministries that are involved, have to take charge and make sure that these countries get the clear message that safety is being ensured in our country. But
Indeed.
is that happening?
Indeed.
No, it's not.
It's not. And one of the other points about the Nolan principles is that it says here that accountability. Holders of public office are accountable to the public for their decisions and actions, and must submit themselves to the scrutiny necessary to ensure this. And the other point, of course, is in point 6, which is honesty. Holders of public office should be truthful. Is that a bit of a joke when you look at it from a Sri Lankan perspective?
All 4 points that you just mentioned, for us, seems to be a joke to the Sri Lankan politicians. I don't mean to disrespect some of the great politicians that we've had in the past, but if you take a look at a majority of the politicians that you see in the present context, I don't think they would know the meanings to the words that you just mentioned, because we don't see stuff like that happening through their actions. Their actions do not emulate or tell us the message that these people are taking care of the people, they're carrying out the work that the people, us, we have appointed them to those positions, be it to the local government, provincial councils, or to the parliamentary level, or in fact to govern any particular thing in our country. The people have appointed them, except for the people who have come in through the nationalist. I don't really agree with the nationalist policy, but we have it in our country. But when all of these things happen, I don't think for us the politicians understand the importance of what they've been given. And the people should remember that when it comes to the next chance
Absolutely,
that
the people must remember that. Well, Chaturanga Haparachi, the head of our English News, has kindly joined me on this live program. Mr. Vidura Wickremanayake, our guest, has now arrived in the studios, and we're going for a short break, and we'll be back again at Newsline Prime with Mr. Vidura Wickremanayake.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And welcome back to Newsline Prime in our temporary news setting. Now we're joined here by Mr. Vidura Wickremanayake, who's fought his way through traffic, and he's here. He's fought his way over traffic, by the way, including that major bridge, you know, the one I mean, the Rajagiri flyover. So I don't think it's made much difference. But anyway, he's right here with us. Mr. Vidura Wickremanayake, very good evening to you, sir.
Very good evening, Faraz. How are things? How are you? How are you doing?
Well, I'm wondering, and because we were going to discuss the Nolan principles, and we gave some, we've been on air for 15 minutes, we're discussing that with the head of our English News, and one question that's come through asks us, do you think that our politicians know what the Nolan principles mean?
The politicians, when you say the parliamentarians, let's focus on them.
Let's take the 225, including you.
Yes. Maybe 99%, they don't know.
They don't know.
Yes.
I wonder if we could have the Nolan principles up on the screen. Let's see if it comes up on the screen. But there were selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, and openness, honesty and leadership. In terms of accountability, holders of public office are accountable to the public for their decisions and actions, and must submit themselves to the scrutiny necessary to ensure this happens. Does any of this happen? I'm trying to apply this bit about accountability, item 4 of the Nolan principles, trying to see whether that applies to the perpetrators of what happened in the Bondgate matter.
Yes, Faraz, now in total, we have these all set of principles.
Yeah.
And tell me, you and I have been living in this country, forget about the past, but since 2015, January 8th.
Yeah.
What principle did apply for our leaders and for the parliament of all this?
Well, I don't see selflessness, which is holders of public office should act solely in terms of the public interest.
Yes.
That's a bit of a joke, because there's nobody who's interested in the public interest. They are all apparently, or the majority are interested in themselves and their
personal agendas and personal well-being.
But integrity says holders of public office must avoid placing themselves under any obligation that might try inappropriately to influence them in their work. They should not act or take decisions in order to gain financial or other material benefit for themselves, their family, or their friends. They must declare and resolve any interests and relationships.
Has it happened?
No, I'm still waiting for Mr. Kirialla to release details of his 400 million he said he's got in, assets or whatever in the bank. And if he's saying that openly, then I don't see why he can't release on his own accord the full details of his assets and liabilities declaration.
Yeah, not only Mr. Kirialla. I think it's only about 6 or 7 of us.
Yeah.
Who came out with our...
That's right, but you all did.
Yes.
You all did, exactly.
And what about the rest, including the Prime Minister? the speaker, and all
It
of
says here on the leadership, under leadership, it says here, holders of public office should exhibit these principles in their own behavior. They should actively promote and robustly support the principles and be willing to challenge poor behavior when it occurs. I don't see our leadership doing that.
No, not at all. Same here, because that is why we are in this plight. We are in this plight of because compare Bhutan and Sri Lanka for us. Now, 2 or 3 days back, I saw on the internet.
Yeah.
The Bhutan boasting about 72% of the forest cover and very much less CO2 emissions.
Yeah.
Whereas we, with all the resources, including the human resource, which the Bhutan lacks, and also their terrain, it's not easy to.
It's a difficult terrain.
Yes, very, very difficult in terms of agriculture or plantation or whatever it is. But here we are blessed. We are blessed with so many rivers. I think more than 100 rivers flowing through the country. And the human resource, as I said, pointed out, and the environment, everything. But what do we lack? We lack a clear leadership and accountability, as you said.
Yes.
And all those things, plus the commitment. Commitment is the most important thing, that we should be committed to certain objectives through the objective plan of action and implementation. We don't have it. We don't have it. As you pointed out, it is only for the personal benefits that we are thriving for.
You know, post 21/4, the events of 21st of April, the tourism industry has been very badly hit.
Yes.
Entrepreneurs have expended, corporate and individual entrepreneurs have invested millions of US dollars in tourism related assets. Thousands of people work in the industry. 180,000 people work directly in the hotel industry. The Colombo hotels, and I had Mr. Sanatu Kwata earlier on the radio program, he told me that the average service charge in the Colombo hotels, the average is around between 40 and 50,000 rupees a month. Now, post 21/4, that money is simply not in the economy. Around between 4 and 5 billion rupees is out of the economy. Now, there are so many suppliers of vegetables and so on and so forth to these hotels. What about this 180,000 people who work there? They've got their own financial arrangements. That 40 or 50,000 rupees is much more than their very low basic salary. And so that 40, 50,000 is spoken for. But they didn't find that in the pay packet at the end of May. A few days ago, they didn't find that. Now, this is the Vedanava, if you like, of the public. But instead of addressing these issues, and they say, well, we've done a moratorium, but we spoke to some people, it hasn't filtered down to the local bank level, the bank manager level. And we feel that instead of that, in between all this, I saw a report that 194 million rupees been spent on a couple of cars for some ministerial something or other. Honestly, the timing couldn't be more terrible than that. What's going on, Mr. Vidura? What's going on?
This is a very pathetic situation, the country. You were mentioning about the post 21/4.
Yes.
For us, we had all the information by the other intelligence agencies that there could be something of this nature happen in our country. But Did we take any account of it? Was our government serious about it? Whoever it is, the president, the prime minister, we don't care. All of them. What happened? We lost lives, everything. Okay, we can say, no, some can say that is past. Let's move forward from here. There are very few disciplines, if you let me put it that way, few disciplines. One is the tourism. And please don't take me in a different way that you think that I'm not trying to promote anything. The other discipline is Buddhism.
Yes, there's a lot of religious tourism into our country. That's an unalienable fact.
If we can promote these two, for us, people are coming, the tourists are coming here, they were coming, not because we went on a campaign promoting our country. No. They themselves, through internet, through other sources, they found that there's a place called Sri Lanka. They have lovely beaches, wildlife, all these things.
In fact, our product is very, very good. Our product is still the same.
Yes. So, since we haven't promoted, without serious promotion, there has been a fairly number of tourists coming in. And for us, there's a lot of inquiries about the Buddhism. And we should promote these. Even now, it is not too late. Let's get together. My view is, let us all put our heads together. Consider this as a national disaster.
And therefore, it would be appropriate to have a truly national government.
Yes, forget about the term that you used to call the governments.
Yeah.
I believe, this is my view, after 21/4, the first thought that came into my mind when I heard that there's a bomb blast is, damn with the politicians. Damn with our leaders. Where have they taken us? Where have they taken us? To the death. There was a place, a Death Valley.
Yes.
It's something like that. What a lovely country is this? Is this what we are giving for our children? Is this an inheritance that they are getting from us? Think about it. We should all get together. Don't give a chance to the politicians to deceive you all.
False promises.
With false promises or whatever it is. Yesterday was the 3rd anniversary of Salawa bombing.
Yes.
So far for us, there are a lot of people who have not received any compensation.
False promises.
False promises again. So I fear that even the people who were victimized, the families, they may not receive anything at all.
I hope that the people realize and don't allow the politicians to get away with this, because we don't want those young children who lost their parents, like Dr. Sanjana Fernando and Mrs. Indra Fernando,
Yes.
who from Katua Pitya, who both perished in that disaster in Katua Pitya. They left behind 3 children, and 2 of them, one's 15, one's 12. I hope that they don't have a reason to ask, what did you do to us? The daughters told us that she doesn't want this, what happened to them, to happen in the future to anybody.
Yes.
That's what the 20-year-old elders told us.
That is what we should do for us. That is what we should do. Let us not repeat these mistakes or this type of happenings in this country. This is not only for Sinhalese, not only for the Tamil, not only for the Muslims. of any religion, no, we are all one. Let us get together. We have to unite and fight this battle. This is for Sri Lanka.
So, Vidura Wickremanayake, thank you very much for joining me on Prime Time, on Newsline Prime Time.
Thank you, Faraz. Thank you for inviting.
The message that Vidura Wickremanayake MP told you was one very simple. Don't let the politicians deceive you, the people. Take care, have a great evening, and of course, God bless you.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.